This is the Smoke Break Therapy Podcast. The show where sits down with the fam to discuss important topics while getting super deep in their
All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right, I have a question because I've been thinking about it now. Do you have... I'd be in trouble if I didn't ever ask this question. I know this is completely unrelated to our current topic, but do you have any ghost stories?
So yeah, I have, I mean, not any really cool ones, I feel like, but my mom was very much into, like, ghosts and the not the supernatural, but, like, what's the other word? Like, paranormal.
Yes.
And she and her friend would, like, she always liked to go to psychics and, like, stuff like that.
Weird, quick question.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't interrupt right now, but, like, I know, you don't have to share, but, like, I know where your mom lives.
Yes.
So, like, has she always lived in that city or that area, or is
Not
this
always, no.
Okay. I was just curious if, like, because I know of
The same general area, yes.
I know of a specific street that Sarah's told me about.
I know the street that you're talking about.
Okay. I didn't know if it was, like, in that area.
We actually have gone down there before.
I have,
like,
too. It's very
at night and,
yeah.
like, yeah.
I actually... we'll go back to that. Sorry. I just was curious if she had always been in that area, because then I would have felt more spooky. Because that area is kind of spooky.
It is a little spooky.
Yeah. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
So this was more... So they always did things like they would go to psychics. Her and her friend would always do, like, ghost things together. Mm-hmm. And they were always, like... They had, like, a ghost box, I guess is, like... My understanding of the ghost box...
Whoa. What do you mean by ghost box?
My understanding was that it was, like, a piece of equipment... that would use, like, radio waves. Like, it would...
Okay.
It would, like, listen to the radio waves.
Ghost box. For a second, I thought you were going in a little bit of a demon sense.
No.
Like some kind of, like, you open the box, it came out. Like,
yeah, it was wild. But that's not that crazy of a story.
No, but that's cool. I actually, if you look above your head, you probably can't tell, but one of those white bins over there is all ghost hunting supplies, like haunting stuff. Like, we got the EMF meter in there, we got the cat balls and the little, like, recording device and stuff. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, so this little box, it was explained to me that it would, like, pull things out of, like, the radio waves, but it would be, like, a ghost would be able to, like, use, because, like, obviously the ghost wouldn't...
together the words.
Yeah, it wouldn't have its own voice, so it would be able to just, like, pull things out of the air. And so we were at my mom's friend's house, but then her other friend that she always did the ghost stuff with was always also at this house.
Did they, like, do this on the reg? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Very often. It was, like, their thing. And so they were doing this ghost box, and so my father passed away when I was very little. I was, like, almost 9. And I was probably in my late teens at this time, and so we were... like, just chatting, and, like, they were like, oh, we're gonna do the ghost box. And so they pulled out the ghost box, and they were, like, asking, like, you know, just... They also, like, all had, like, family members who had passed on, so they were kind of like, oh, like, maybe we can get my dad to try and get in, like, come through, or, like, you know, my uncle or whatever. And so they were trying to do that, and then they were like, oh, let's see if we can, like, contact your father. And so I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, because I was, like, 16 years old, and I was just like, you guys are so lame with your ghost stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry, my mouth is getting dry.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
So then they were like, and so I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so then they were, like, asking questions and stuff. And I don't remember exactly what was said, but I remember, like, the chill that came over me because, again, this was supposed to be pulling things out of the air and using, like, radio stuff, like, basically words that were on the radio to, like, say whatever message they wanted to say. But I, clear as day, heard my father's voice through this little ghost box. I don't even remember what he said.
Like, it was his voice. Like,
yeah, and, like, because, like, even now, like, I can't off the top of my head, because I was so young when he passed away, like, I can't remember his voice. Like, I don't have any real memory of it. But I remember in that instant, like, if you had asked me, like, oh, what does your dad sound like? I would have been like, I don't know. But in that instant, I was like, that was my dad. Like, that was his voice. That was, like, his... Like, that was, without a doubt, that was my dad. That, like, I don't even remember what he said, like I said, but... I remember being like, damn, like, maybe this ghost shit is real.
Wow, that's kind of great. And you were 16?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Did they ask it anything before, like, turning it on? Or did they just turn it on and you knew
I think they were kind of just like...
voice or whatever? whatever.
Yeah, and so it was kind of like...
Because a lot of people, they'll sit there and they'll ask questions.
Yeah, I think that's what they were trying to be like, oh, is like my uncle around? Like, or my whoever, like... And they were kind of just like, oh, well, let's see, is your dad here? And like they said his name and like his voice came through clear as day. But I feel like I like blocked it out because it was like comforting, but also a little traumatic.
I was going to say, that would be kind of traumatic, especially like when you're a teenager. Like,
especially because I was like, whenever, this is such bullshit. Like, you guys are so silly for your stupid ghost playing around or whatever. And so I remember them being like, oh, well, look, your dad is here, like, ask him questions. And I was like too dumbfounded to say anything. And so I kind of like have some like regret because I'm like, oh, should I have like asked him things? But then I was like, what do I even ask? And like part of me was still skeptical, like, oh, maybe it wasn't real. Like, he died so long ago, maybe I don't remember what his voice sounded like, you know? So I was kind of like doubting myself, and so I didn't say anything. And so I was like, oh, but like looking back now, I'm like, oh, I should have like asked him things. Like,
you definitely
especially now, I'm like, there's so many things I would love to ask.
Would you ever do it again? Like, I mean, just to see if like maybe you hear that voice again, or maybe you have the opportunity to ask if you still believe in this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I feel like you can't not, like, I feel like saying you don't believe in ghosts is like saying like, I don't know, I don't believe in like...
I love that outlook.
Because
I love that outlook. Not most people have that.
Right, but I'm also like, I mean, I've had a couple of experiences like I just mentioned, but other than that, like, I don't have like, you know, I've never seen like a shadowy figure that was like in the shape of my father or whatever. Like, I haven't had like a without a doubt like ghost. I mean, I guess that kind of was. But
I mean, if you felt that way, to me, it sounds like it was real. You know what I mean? Like, I've had some weird ones. Like, I've had sleep paralysis. I've had like those.
That sounds really scary.
It was really scary when I was young. But like, we lived in this house that was kind of haunted in Connecticut, and it was down the street from the house that was literally the movie The Haunting in Connecticut was down the street. And because I had one of my close friends at the time, his grandmother lived in the house behind the house. I'd go out on the porch, I'd look over, and they were like, I remember hearing the stories on the bus. They'd be like, that house, there used to be a funeral home to stay. I was like, oh, fuck you guys. Like, and then one day I'm like out there on his back porch of his grandmother's house, and I'm like, look, you look through those windows, man, that shit is creepy. It's like fucking creepy. First of all, the stories are true, by the way. The first one. Not, you know, they added like 8 sequels or whatever it was, you know, like they do. But point being, I saw some like stuff in me and my brother's bedroom. We shared one. It was in the attic, and it was like one of these weird finished attics. And like, did you ever see one of those houses that had like so like you'd have to open an attic door, and there would be a big fan, and it was supposed to like fan through the whole house or whatever. And so it was one of those houses. Oh. So like at night, you got to keep the door to the attic, which is at the end of my hallway of the whole bedroom. Yeah. So like you're staring down, like it's like the most creepy setup. It's like a hallway. Yeah. At the end is this big creepy door. Behind that is the big fan screaming at you all night. Right. And then you're like sitting there, and I will tell you, I saw some shit come out of that attic. And I looked into some of the history. I'm trying to still piece it together, but there's creepy shit about that area of Connecticut. And it was right next to a cemetery. The cemetery was right next to it. I forgot to mention that. But, like, that was definitely a fact. I used to bury people in that cemetery. Wow. Another creepy factor. One of the people I grew up with was one of my father's best friends. He was like the keeper of the cemetery. He worked for the church, and he was like the groundskeeper or whatever for the cemetery. But he would have to dig the holes and shit, and I would go over and help him. We used the backhoe. It was a good time, you know, just burying people. So like he had a haunted house, which was another reason I got into haunted houses, was the stories that my father told me, because that guy lived in the house next to the haunted house that was already haunted in Bristol, Connecticut. There was like 2 houses together. One was owned by this guy's father, and then him, and then they both just owned those houses till they died. So like there's these barns, creepy, death, all kinds of stuff, old ass shit, creepiest demonic presences in that house. I could tell you some crazy stories where like there was one time they were all sitting in the kitchen, and then water just like poured all over his wife, like just poured all over my. Look up at the ceiling, they're like, that is fucking dry. Like, what the fuck just happened?
That is weird.
That kind of shit. Like, and then, you know, there's little stories like you'd hear the footsteps going up the hallways. hallways were closed off like a half a century ago. Like,
wow.
Yeah, and you just hear them all the way up and all that shit, and it's all boarded off and stuff.
Yeah.
So creepy. But they would have more creepy ones, like they would attack people. That's why I say it was demonic. There was like actual instances where like they're scratching at the windows, stuff like that. Then a couple of people got scratched. So my favorite story to tell is my dad's, actually. So when they were like teenagers, I look back on the podcast to figure out what the actual age was. I guessed it right the first time, but I'm not gonna try that now. So Doug's parents went away. They want to break in. They're bad teenagers. It's like, what? I don't know, the fucking 70s or shit. I don't know when they were. They're old people. But so they're trying to break in after his parents leave, and they're going to get the liquor. And the liquor's kept above the stove in the cabinet. So my father puts his hand down on the stove to reach up and go. They've been gone for hours, by the way. No one's been home. No one was here. So he puts his hand down on the fucking stovetop, puts his hand out, burns.
Oh.
Like red hot, just burns rings around his hand.
Wow.
All like that. Doug walks over after, obviously he was like, fuck! And all this shit. Doug walks over, touches it, ice cold. And he had, like, all these, like, actual burns.
Wow.
Like, yeah, it was crazy. And, like, that was the first story that actually got me into ghosts, because I grew up hearing that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Campfire story, if you will. But, yeah. Ghost stories. Nice. You got any more? Or you just that one?
I'm trying to think. I feel like none of them were like we just did a lot of like ghost hunting as kids.
That's awesome. See, I've never talked to someone who's actually done this as kids. I didn't fuck with this shit till I was an adult, and I fell into a YouTube wormhole one day.
Yeah.
Like that was how I discovered that. Like maybe we should check out some ghost shit. Yeah,
I guess I had a weird childhood.
No, I think that's awesome. I think that's so cool. Did you use a lot of those? You said you used I'm familiar with calling it a spirit box. You call it a ghost box, but like the same shit,
Yeah.
So did you just use that stuff, or did you ever use like those meters, the cat balls?
I don't think we ever used like any of the meters. So my mom's
Ouija board?
Yes, but they always kind of creeped me out. And I always
creepy. I got one right there.
It's another one of those things where I'm kind of like, that's where the skeptical side of me comes out. I'm like, okay, but like, even if you don't realize you're pushing it, like you are probably pushing it a little bit.
Have you ever had someone explain a story where they weren't touching it and it moved?
I've never heard one. No.
Me either. I want to.
Oh.
It was really helping.
I was excited. I thought you were going to tell me. I was like, okay.
I wish. One day, someone who's had that. If you've had that experience, please contact us at Smoke Break Therapy. Yeah. I mean, do you know any other people that have like lived in? Like, I have actually been. I went to a. What was it? A wedding. Those before wedding dinner type thing. The
rehearsal dinner.
The rehearsal dinner.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because I'm brain fart there. But rehearsal dinner. I went to someone related to me's one of that, and it was in. I think it was Derry, New Hampshire. And I went in, and I literally was like, yo, this place feels so haunted. This place is so old, it feels so haunted. And it's like a restaurant and shit. And I'm looking around. They bring us to this private room. I'm like, yo, this is like some Civil War shit. This shit is so haunted. I'm like, and so we have this young waiter, and I go, yo, how haunted is this place? He immediately reacted, and he goes, haunted as fuck. Why do you ask? And I was like, whoa, did not expect that reaction. So I'm like, I'm thinking about putting a podcast together. You serious? Is this place actually haunted? He's like, fucking yeah, man. My dad owns it. And he's had some fucking crazy shit. This place is super fucking haunted. And I was like, all right, man. Maybe one day I'll hit you up. Never exchanged information or anything. Mom's paying the tab. Right? Or, like, my mother's paying her tab or whatever, and she's, like, up there, and I go over to check on my mom. I'm like, hey, Mom, you all good? The lady taking the bill or whatever was like, you the guy who asked about the haunting? And I was like, yeah. And he's, let me tell you something. I'm the cousin of the owner or whatever, and they're like, pulls out her phone. She goes, just hold on. Let me show you something. She pulls out this picture. She's like, my uncle sent me this from when he was in the attic, and it's just literally the creepiest fucking figure in a doorway of their attic at that building. And I was like, yo, I really need to ghost hunt here. Like, wicked bad.
Yeah.
I still haven't contacted them. She gave me her number, and I'm supposed to contact her, and I feel like a because I haven't. But one day when I get a team, because I'm not going alone. Fuck that shit. So, like, one day when I get a team together and we're ready to go, I'm going to contact this lady, and hopefully they still own it, because this place was so haunted. I got so many vibes off of it. So creepy, but confirmed with pictures, I was in. I was just so in, and I can't wait to go there and just fuck around.
That'll be fun.
Yes, I'm super amped. Do you want to be part of my team?
I don't know. I'm kind of a chicken.
You seem experienced. Your youth is experienced, so...
I don't know about that. Like, we weren't always involved. Like, sometimes they would go on their own little ghost hunts.
Maybe I should contact your mom. Maybe I should... Do you want to go ghost hunting?
She'd be so fun. I don't know if it's picking up on this, but I'm being sarcastic.
I've met your mom, so just, like, everything right now is so funny to me. Like, just... Because I'm picturing her, and it actually...
She didn't strike you as a ghost lady, huh?
No,
she's going to
I mean, she should have. I feel like she should have, but she didn't. She truly didn't. Honestly, the first time I ever met your mom, it made sense in the end.
Yeah.
Scared me.
Yeah, I can imagine. It would have scared me too, and she's my mom, so...
Oh, man. Do you think your sister has any ghost stories? I should call her someday.
You should. I'm surprised you haven't.
I don't know. I just never thought about it as far as, like, ghost stories. I didn't know you guys were ghost people.
I have a good story about my sister. We went to, I think it was a cemetery, and I think we were looking for a specific grave. It was like in this particular town, they had like a mass murder where, like, or it wasn't like one of those, like, annihilator killers, where, like, it's like the dad that kills his children and his partner. It was like someone broke in, and, like, I think there was
they were like victims.
But they had a 16-year-old daughter who happened to be sleeping over at a friend's house, and, like, but everyone else was home. And
I feel like I've heard this before.
It was.
But go for it. Yeah.
Do you talk about town names or no?
I mean, you can. It's up to you.
It was in.
Anonymous you want to be with anything.
It was in Tewksbury.
That's dope, yeah.
And so it was, I forget when it happened. I think it might have also been the 70s or the 80s or something. It was like a famous doctor in Tewksbury. He had like a 16-year-old daughter who, like I said, I think was like at a friend's house or something. And I think they had one other kid, maybe a son. And I know that all three of them were murdered by, like, an intruder. I don't remember the whole details of the story, but we were at the cemetery looking for their graves because, like, that's what you do when you're.
I've been there.
When you're the child of some ghost hunters. Yeah. And so my sister was like, so at the time I thought it was, like, super cool. I don't know. I think I was younger. I think I was, like, in my early teens maybe maximum. And I was like, oh, this is, like, kind of cool and fun. I don't know if I believe in this, but it's like we're out at night and in the cemetery. So it was more like that. And so I was, like, just looking around trying to find, like, the grave and stuff. And, like, they, like, were like, okay, this is the name. This is, like, the date. Like, go. And so I'm just, like, running around the cemetery having a grand old time.
I know for a fact that's hard. Like, to try and figure
it was,
out.
It was dark and, like, trying to see it. And they're, like, kind of older graves. And my sister wouldn't get out of the car. At the time, she was
honestly,
like a big scaredy cat.
In my experience, most of the people don't.
Yeah.
I've been several times to graveyards, and then you take, like, 2 cars sometimes if you get enough people. And then you get out, and everyone's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah. She was sitting in the car holding a Bible, just like.
Oh my god!
It was just hilarious. Meanwhile, I'm running around.
Oh man!
I'm just running around. Trying to find this grave.
Yeah.
I think I actually did end up being the one that found it. Or find them. They were all buried together. But my sister, she wouldn't get out of the car. Just clutching her Bible.
Picturing her just gripping the Bible.
Like, probably sitting in there, like, praying to herself. Yeah, you should ask her about that one.
I will. Stories too.
She does.
I know they both went to church camp. That's some tragic stuff right there. Right there in and of itself.
I think that's why she had the Bible. I
get it. The first thing I thought of was like, oh, do you guys go back to church camp?
I never did church camp. That was her thing.
I was going to ask that. I was actually going to ask that because, like, I've never done church camp. I was passed around through quite a few religious schools, though. I went to several Catholic schools that I was passed around, but that was interesting. My
relationship to religion is interesting. I mean, I'm definitely, like, I don't know if I'm agnostic or if I'm an atheist. I don't know. I was
somewhere in there. That with the ghost influence and stuff.
Yeah, I don't practice any religion. I'm not really into religion. I'm,
No, I totally agree.
But growing up, so it was very important to my father that because my dad was a very Catholic guy, and so he decided that I needed to go to CCD. But did we go to church on Sundays? No, absolutely not. So we were like kind of Catholic.
I was an altar boy.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. I had a priest. I got nuns tied to the Vatican. They work at the Vatican and shit. I was deep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was never that deep.
But I'll tell you, the deeper you go, the more corrupt it is.
Yeah. So after my father passed away, like I said, my mom, I think she was like trying to like find meaning, or she was like a little depressed, obviously, like her husband passed away, and she had 2 little kids that she had to take care of and stuff. But she went through a phase where she was like experimenting with religions, I guess, and
Which is cool.
She decided she was a born-again Baptist, and
Oof,
so
that's a tough one.
it was very weird. Like our neighbor was like very much like Bible thumping.
I'm sorry, but Baptists are fucking weird.
Yeah, they are.
They're so unnecessarily intense.
And so actually I was saved by this neighbor, like without them talking to my mom or anything first. Like she she basically came up to me and was like, do you want to go to heaven? Like, or because you don't want to have to go to hell, right? Like you want to go to heaven. Of course, I'm 10, so I'm like, I want to go to heaven. Like I don't want to go to hell. And so she's like, okay, well let me save you. And so she like saved me, and then she's like, okay, now you're a Christian. And I was like, okay, cool.
Did she like dip you in water or anything?
So not yet. So then,
not yet.
So then I tell my mom, I'm like, yeah, so I'm like a Christian now, I guess. And she's kind of like, what? And so then she, like, I don't know how it ended up happening. I don't know if she went and talked to the neighbor or if the neighbor came over, but she like roped my mom in, and my mom was like, okay, we're all Christians now. And so we started going to this Baptist church. We had to get into a bus. They bussed people in. I forget, it was somewhere in New Hampshire.
That is so cool.
I forget the name of the place, but we like would take a bus, and like it was very much like we went to church like multiple times a week. All of a sudden, like my mom went out and did like the
Don't you love it?
Like the door-to-door sales for the church,
rediscovering themselves, and they bring that shit to you. Like you're just like,
and
is this how we live now? Okay.
They would go out visiting, and like I'm assuming saving people is like what the like she would like leave us with a babysitter who was this old man who didn't have a toe. Like he didn't have.
My god!
His big toe was just gone.
His name was Russell. Anyone. He's off balance.
Yeah. He would just sit there. Okay, so babysitting, he would sit in the recliner and kind of like doze off,
I feel like I've heard your sister talk about that person.
Probably.
Before, like the guy who sits in the...
Yes. He would leave sit in the recliner, and we would watch like religious movies, like kid cartoons, like not VeggieTales or anything like that. Like we never watched that.
Like that's Jesus.
But it was these like David and Goliath, like all those like
that's
religious.
Creepier. I've seen them. I know what you're talking about.
And so they would just play these videos for us and all that. And so then we were in that church for a while, and so we went to like Super Church, was like kid church, and I was really excited about it because every week they would like, you would have to like memorize a thing of scripture, and then if you remembered it for next week and like they called on you, then they would give you like this goodie bag full of candy. So they're literally like bribing children into the religion. It was wild.
I've always said all religions are cults, even the legitimate religions. They're just as culty as
it's like get them while they're young and just like train them with candy.
Reward them.
Give them candy. Yeah.
Oh my god.
And like little prizes and stuff. And so then, but then it was a bummer because I liked Super Church because it was like, because I have ADHD, and so like turning anything into a game is like made church so much fun. Like I loved going to church because there was like games and I could compete, and if I could remember the thing, then I would get rewarded. And they had different games about different things. But then I was so good at it because I was like so excited about this game that they graduated me from Super Church to regular, like whatever the CCD equivalent is when you're Baptist. Like I had to go to like sit in a little classroom and take notes about Jesus.
They were this like pyramid culty. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
And then like so it was like you would go to this like CCD, like again like Sunday school. I don't know.
No, I've been to CCD. I'm a proficient CCD.
But this was in.
I didn't graduate though.
This was in I don't know what the Baptist equivalent is. Like CCD is like I think Catholic, but.
It is because I was Catholic.
Yeah.
And I was. Yeah.
Because I went to CCD also. But then, again, we switched because my mom was finding herself.
So interesting.
And so then we were going to this other church, and so, like, it was so boring because you would spend, like, half the time doing this, like, little class, and it was just, like, it was literally, like, just taking notes about Jesus. Like, it was so boring. God. And then you would have to go and sit in on, like, the actual service where it's just, like, the pastor, like, giving his sermon or whatever, which was boring as hell. And I was like, I want to go back to Super Church. Right? Like, that shit was fun. I got donuts and stuff.
Give me the rewards.
Seriously. And so I was like so over it at that point, but my mom was like deep into it for a little while. But then she and Barbara, which was the neighbor that saved us all and whatever. So like again, I was so good at it that they ended up deciding that I was ready to be baptized. So they did like the whole, like I had to get in this little blue suit And then I got to sit in a tub, and then the pastor like pushed me back into the water. So like I'm good. I'm getting into heaven.
Wait, how old were you again? Just
I was like
freshman?
9, 10, 11ish.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that all
How
happened.
big was the tub? What are we talking? Just
It
a
was
tub,
like adult.
a
I mean,
pool,
because
or
my mom
like-
also got dunked at the same time. Not at the same
okay,
time, but like
gotcha,
I went
gotcha.
first and then she went. So yeah, it was just like a big group bath, I guess. Very sanitary, I'm sure.
Yeah, wicked.
But I mean, my understanding now is that even though, so at the time I wasn't out as a lesbian because I was 10. But now that I'm gay, it's fine. I'm forgiven because I was saved back then. So I'm good.
Gotcha. Yeah. You're okay now.
Yeah.
You're all right. Cleansed. Oh my.
And then my mom had a falling out with Barbara, and we stopped going to church, just like that. And then she.
Isn't that how it always happens with church? People are like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit, I fell out of the circle. We out."
Yep.
Like,
And now, and then she went back to being Catholic for a little while, and we did that. And finally, when I was 13, I was like, "Yeah, I don't know that I really believe in God. I don't want to do the CCD thing anymore." Yeah. And she was kind of like, "Okay, I don't want to argue with you and have to get you up for church every Sunday anyway. So you just stay home."
Wait, so just real quick, so how old were you when you cut off the?
I was
church
probably
stuff?
like 11ish, maybe. It was it was brief. It wasn't like a long time, but she went.
No, but I mean when you cut off, when you were like, I'm not religious.
I was
like,
13.
13. Okay. Because like I'm thinking about it, and I remember that moment for me, but like. We were like, you know that fake religious too? Like they have like that religious where like you guys were religious, now you're being fake religious where you're just like you're going because that's what you did before. Like
right.
That's But the whole leading question of asking the age thing was because I never did my what is it called? What's the last thing? They have the first communion.
Oh, the confirmation. I missed out that too.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you did too, because that was something I always kind of was like,
Yeah, I think that was 9th grade, so I stopped in 8th grade.
So that must have been me too. That must have been exactly when I did it as well, because like I always get shit from like one of my friends who's like not religious anymore either, but like he always got to do his confirmation and he got some freaking religious, like I guess you get a name.
You get an extra middle name.
Yeah.
I'm a little bummed about that.
This motherfucker got his middle, and his was so cool.
Aww.
Damien. Yeah, right. It's like, whoa! I didn't know we were being sacrilegious at the same time. Like, it was weird. And then it's like, what does that say about you, sir? Like,
right. Yeah, I feel like everyone I know who did it, like they chose like Elizabeth or Mary.
Did you choose it? He told me that he didn't choose it.
No, I think you do get to choose it.
Oh.
Or I think
I believe
maybe
that the Jews do.
Yeah.
They choose their whatever name.
I think that in
after.
some families it might be like a tradition for like your father or your mother or your aunt or
I
whatever to
could
give you
see
that name.
I could
but
see that.
most of the people I knew just chose their own. But I'm like, why would you
I
choose?
never made it that far.
Like
so.
I think you get a list. Like I don't think you can just choose any name, but I think there is like a
that
list
makes more sense to me.
of
He would have
ones you
looked
can
at that
choose.
in 2 seconds, been like Damien.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they gave me that name because I was that crazy. Okay, sure you were.
Yeah, I think it has to be like a Bible name or something.
Real quick, I'm just gonna throw a little shout out. So we got Bubby's Baked, we got some Snickerdoodle Bites, we got some Choco Chip Bites. They're awesome.
They were pretty good.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah.
I ate like 8 canisters. Wow, we've been recording a good amount of time. I ate like 8 of those on like 420 like a couple years ago, and I had the best time. I was smoking so much. Those are all still unlit if you ever did want to smoke. But
Yeah, the smoking thing isn't my thing.
I get it.
Edibles are where it's at.
I get it. No, I mean, the most people I talk to, I can do edibles. I can't vape. Vapes don't hit me.
I've never, yeah.
It doesn't get me high. It just, it barely gets me even a tad bit of a light buzz.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm fucked up. I mean, I'd rather drink straight alcohol than a mixed drink or shit like that. I just always need that, I don't know, it's got to be intense. That's why I like sativa, even though, well, anyone who wants to be awake likes sativa, but, you know.
Right.
So, I'm like, I probably got a good couple episodes. Do you want to keep going, or what do you want?
I mean, I'm good.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I know.
I'd come
I know
on
you
again
wanted
if
to
you
leave.
invited me to.
Absolutely, it was so fun. Too.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah. So it would be fun to have you on again. I think maybe I'll bring your sister on, and then maybe we'll do a combo episode too. Like,
that would be fun.
too.
Oh yeah, we'd have some stories to tell.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome. I'm excited. All right, thank you for coming on the show today.
No problem.
Real.
Oh, thank you.
We went to Florida, and it was for Thanksgiving. We call it the Thanksgiving Day episode. You can check it out. We make a reference to someone who ends up... But it's the siblings Truth or Drink episode. Oh. So we talk about art versus artist and truth or drink, and someone says something. I don't know. It's like... You remember that rapper Triple X?
No.
Guy? Oh, God. Extortion or whatever the hell is it. He does that... I can play a couple songs you might be familiar. I don't know. Do you listen to mainstream music? I don't, so it took me a while to catch up with all this stuff.
I would say I do. I'm like a top 40s.
Then you've probably heard him back in the day.
Maybe.
He died young. That's why he's relevant to me. So
That's
like
sad.
but he also did some shit, you know what I mean? So it's art versus artist. Like, can you take the art from the artist?
Right.
You know, I love that idea because people usually can't, and I find that so interesting. But then you play the song and they ain't fucking complaining, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, I don't know. Where you
Right.
Alright, we should cut it. Okay.